Hey traders, welcome to the weekly game plan for FX, commodities, and crypto. Starting with the dollar, you can see how we've continued to see that bullish dollar move, which is indicative of that big change in narrative the markets have been trading for the last year, basically since COVID and stimulus packages emerged. So we'll be keeping a close eye on the dollar once again, checking how things are going to be playing out, if this really is the start of the move, or if this is going to get faded and we're going to continue to see a little bit of dollar weakness moving forward. But as you can see, we are really bouncing off an area that is in place to be the start of a longer, more drawn-out bull market in the dollar, and that's going to cause a lot of issues around the world, and that's kind of what we've been expecting. We've been expecting this move to go. It's just a matter of deciding or seeing that this move is the start, and it's not just a corrective structure for more downside to maybe go test 87 before we see the turn. So we haven't quite had that confirmation, but again, as time goes on, it's looking more and more like we have seen a turn. When we go into the lower time frames, you can see how it's a really bullish move off these lows. So it's really indicative of a turn to the upside. So again, we'll just be keeping a close eye on the dollar for evidence that what we have seen is the start of a new dollar bull market moving forward. Euro USD, obviously the same thing. We were looking for this to become a little bit more corrective before chopping down to the lows. But as you can see, we've just continued to motor down, very impulsive moves. So probably find this week we see a little bit of reprieve in the dollar, a little bit of either sideways corrective action, or we start to see a turn to the upsides. And again, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to see what the dollar is going to be presenting to us over the next few days / weeks, and if we can start to really look into that dollar bull market. So no real trades here in the euro, in my view. We're just going to have to wait and see how things play out and what kind of price structure we see. Aussie, same thing. As you can see, we were looking for this corrective structure, but it just turned into a little bit of a zigzag correction and then continued for more downside. And when we look at the length of the waves, we're approaching the bottom of a structure, and now we'll have to see what exactly is forming here. There's always the chance that what we see is a long drawn-out chop back up to the highs, in which case we can expect that little bit of dollar weakness, continued dollar weakness for the next few months before we see the turn. So again, it's all about just being patient and seeing what the price action delivers and looking for opportunity, maybe short-term opportunities within that price action. But right now, I'm on the sidelines for most of these dollar pairs, apart from the existing trades which I have in place. The one trade I would look for, if this is going to play out, is the pound. The pound's looking particularly bearish. As you guys know, we've been bearish the pound the last 2 weeks, and this bearish price action is really starting to show. As you can see, really big move off the highs and off the basically key areas of the pound dollar structure. So we went all the way up to our 1-to-1 ABC, and now we can expect that turn to the downside, and we're seeing a lot of pound pairs looking particularly weak. So again, we're looking for those short entries in the pound. We did have one which our members would have taken sitting in this region, at this 138.50 region. That was a good short entry. We're going back to test those highs, or test that entry level now. But I suspect we're going to see continuation to the downside from here. It is a little bit of a dangerous area because what we have here is an impulse down ABC and impulse down. So we've got a complete structure, theoretically speaking. But again, it's just about being patient, looking for opportunity. All the trades we're taking at the moment, we're trying to pick a longer term top, which means we're keeping it low risk trades. We're keeping it down to 1% of our capital, and we're keeping our stops nice and tight. So I'm going to see how things develop over the next few hours in this region here. And if that gives us a little bit of an entry, I will look for that pound short. Otherwise, those that are in the trade already are just going to have to hold through this little push towards break even and maybe into a little bit of pain. It could be a potential ABCDE running triangle, running expanding triangle. So you might just find we get another pop higher, and following that, you'll just see continuation to the downside, and that will give us a fairly clean ABCDE expanding triangle trade. So yeah, keeping a close eye on the dollar and the pound for weakness. New Zealand dollar is another one that's looking fairly weak. We had a nice little impulse down, A, B, C, D, E, expanding triangle, and another nice clean impulse down. Our members took this entry and are sitting in profit now. Once again, we're getting a little bit of a retest of that profits of that entry region. You might find we're going to take a lot of break-even trades over this next few days or weeks as we try and pick that top. But longer term, these break-even trades are going to morph into some really healthy profits. So we just need to be patient with those entries and, again, keeping that risk management nice and tight. So again, we have a nice complete structure on the lower time frames. So we have to see where to from here for the higher time frames. But when we zoom all the way out to those higher time frames, you can see how we're sitting in a really key area, and we can start to look for that turn to the downside. And when we do get that turn, it is going to be a really nice big move to the downside. One concern I have for the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, is potentially what we're looking at is an expanding flat on the higher time frame. So there's a little bit of a conflict between time frames, but all that means is if we start to see continued upside and we get some lower degree entries for a long, I'm pretty happy to take that long, completely shift my viewpoint from New Zealand dollar short back to New Zealand dollar long, and probably go and test these highs once again, probably get as high as 7.5, maybe even higher. So we can get some potentially good risk reward trades out of a long if we manage to stay nice and neutral and find any entries either long or short. So there's no real set mindset as to where the dollar is going. We're looking for opportunity as it comes. And at the moment, if this continues to the upside and we get some corrective structure that is indicative of further upside, I'm happy to take that long because of the structure we're looking at here. Silver short trade still playing out really nicely. We're coming into a little bit of a danger area because of the structure. Higher time frames are different. They're saying more downside, but this lower time frame isn't a dangerous area, just to be clear. We may see a little bit of a pop higher. We may see just continued fall to the downside. Either way, I've moved my entry or my stop loss to break even. So it's a risk-free trade at the moment, and I'm just looking for this to continue to fade at least down to 21. And I'm hoping to get more legs down because I feel this is a good opportunity that could be going down, especially if we see this dollar bull market. We'll definitely see silver drop towards probably around $4, which could be a potentially really, really big short. So we're keeping a close eye on price action to see how things develop there. Same with gold. Our gold short's performing excessively well. Really nice trade at the moment. We're seeing a little bit of a price structure that is indicative of either a turn to the upside, especially if yields start to shift, which is I'm a little bit worried about, or this is a running triangle for downside. We could get some real strong legs to the downside moving forward. So it's all about yield at the moment. What's the 10-year yield? What's TLT doing, which we'll get to later. It's a little bit concerning for me and this trade, but regardless of that, I'm happy with my profit. I'm in break even on my stop loss, so there's no risk on this trade, and I'm looking to hold this for a longer term trade down towards kind of 12.50 is my full target. So this is a longer term trade, trading that dollar bull market narrative, which will obviously be very bearish for gold. And I'm holding on to this trade, which is nicely in break even at the moment. So there's no risk on the table. It's just a matter of taking some emotional pain if I end up getting taken out for break even, having been so deep in profit. But I'm willing to take that on because I am looking for that longer term trade and keeping my game plan in play. Platinum's another one that's looking pretty bearish. As you can see, we were bearish this last week. It took a while to take off, but eventually we did get some downside momentum. And what we're seeing at the moment is a little bit of a flag developing on the lower time frame. So you may be looking at a potential short entry here, even though it's high risk because of how far down this flag is. A bit of a high risk trade, but maybe worth taking because of the potential downside again, if that dollar bull market really does come into play in earnest. And as you can see, we're looking for downside of sub kind of 550 on platinum, which is another big move. So if you're not in silver or gold, platinum is maybe a potential entry if you're looking to get into precious metal shorts moving forward. Euro CAD. Euro's a bit of a mixed bag. It's an interesting picture, which means we're going to have to do some pretty technical trading around the euro moving forward. All I know is what we got here is a lower time frame structure that has a really nice impulse and a long drawn out corrective move that is approaching a really interesting buy zone, if you ask me. I'd like to get long the Euro CAD in this zone. It's all about looking for long entries in this region. We go to lower time frames, not seeing anything just yet, but we do have that extended 1 hour price action. So we've gone into that oversold region on the 1 hour, which means there's a good opportunity to find a little flag entry to the upside and move to break even fairly soon after that, with the potential that this starts to get some good legs to the upside from this region we are. Worst case scenario is it becomes a small corrective move, something similar to this little price action here, and we end up taking break even because we have a pop higher and then it starts to fade and comes back down to the lows, but we're already in the trade from nice and low and we take a little break even trade there. So that's the kind of strategy I'm looking for in the Euro CAD at the moment. It should have some pretty good upside as well. If we do really start to see the pound move, structure wise, we're looking at a really good move to the upside. We could at the very minimum go and break these highs at 160. So as you can see, risk reward of the trade is really, really good. So we're keeping a close eye on that for the beginning of the week. Euro yen, on the other hand, looks like it still has a little bit of a bearish picture because we have this corrective structure to the upside. My big thing here is that this B wave, the central structure, is really small in comparison to the bigger structure. It is big enough given that what we're looking at, definitely enough size in terms of A of B. So structure-wise, it works to see some moves to the downside. So you may have to hedge these trades where you look for that Euro CAD long, you look for the Euro yen short, and one of those trades should pay off for you, hopefully without getting taken into the other one. But if you do get taken into both, it'll all be small trades, 1%. So you say you win or you profit Euro CAD 2%, and you take a 1% loss on Euro yen, that hedge has paid for you because you take that 1% gain out of the two trades. So that's the kind of trading we have at the moment in the euro, where we're looking for that technical opportunity, and when that opportunity arises, that's the kind of trade we'll be looking to get into. In terms of setup on the lower time frame, euro yen is not much here. We did have an entry order below these lows, expecting different price action, but that's morphed into something we're not too interested in. So that entry order is gone, and we're going to just see how things develop here. You might find this actually chop back up to the highs and give us actually a little bit of an ABC for more upside moving forward, which we'll have to look at as a separate trade. But for now, we're keeping a close eye on this, and maybe anything below this trend line will be something we need to look at for that short trade. Euro New Zealand, we were already long Euro New Zealand, so again, it's a mixed bag. And it's playing out pretty nicely so far. Structure-wise, price looking really good. I may even look to scale back into this trade, scale in, add an extra position into this, because we're already in profit on this. We're already at break even, so there's no risk on the table, and we've got decent profit at the moment, sitting at just under 2%, if I'm not mistaken. And we're forming a little bit of an interesting looking structure here, where we could see more upside following this turn in price. As you can see with the arrows here, we were looking for this move, and it's playing out exactly as we thought. So if we start to see this turn to the upside, we'll definitely look at adding to this, scaling in, and trading all the way up to our full target at around about 173.50. So some good looking price action here in New Zealand, and always good to see some trades in the profit that have price action that resembles more upside to come. So maybe looking to put my foot on the gas on this one and add a bit of risk. Pound Oz. Zoomed out, you guys know we're still looking for this as an ABCDE structure for more downside to come. We took a little bit of a trade last week, which ended up in break even. Happy to have taken break even early and to be out of this trade. Now we continue to look for entries in terms of that short. I'd like to see these highs broken first before we see a turn, but it could very easily shift in any manner and start to turn to the downside and then give us a short entry, which I will not hesitate to take because of the risk reward available. So definitely just keeping a close eye. Nothing available at the moment, nothing key, but keeping a close eye in case something starts to present itself and we start to look, get a short trade opportunity, a short trade setup, then we'll definitely be taking this moving forward. Poundcad. Poundcad is interesting on the higher time frames because of the structure we're looking at. So it's really messy, but in terms of just this little section here, you can see we have strong impulse down, we have a strong impulse up. Then we go into quite a clean and clear ABCDE corrective structure, and we have a corresponding impulse to the upside. So we have a complete corrective structure following quite a strong impulse to the downside. It's a really big correction. It's a really long, drawn-out correction given the size of the impulse, but it may be just a complex correction for more upside. But if that is the case, we're looking to trade this down towards these lows at 165, which means I'm looking for those short entries. Again, like I said, there's a lot of pound weakness of the cards at the moment. So I'm looking for those short entries. And when you look at the lower time frame, you can see how there's a little bit of a setup potentially forming here, a little bit of a running flat corrective structure. So if I see this develop into and give us a little bit of a chop back up to 177, somewhere in that region, I'll be definitely looking for a short trade in the pound CAD. Lots of confirmation, like I said, the other pound pairs looking really weak. So when you get a setup like this, you don't want to hesitate to take it. So I'll be keeping a close eye on the pound CAD over the beginning initial phases of the week. It should be a slow chop. So this is kind of Wednesday type structure, Wednesday price action I'll be looking for. I'll be looking for this short entry Wednesday, Thursday. Pound Swiss is another one. Zoomed out back to the structure, you can see very similar to pound dollar, although we have not turned. Obviously, with the Aussie, the pound, US dollar Swiss, and the US dollar yen rallying so hard, you can see how the pound Swiss is managing to hold up in terms of its structure. So looking at the structure itself, we've definitely done enough. So like I said, we're going to be probably taking a lot of small high risk trades and taking a lot of break evens on these trades. But right now I'm looking for anything that resembles an opportunity to get short. And structure wise, we've got a nice long 1 hour impulse to the upside, and we've had a little bit of a pullback. This was actually a pretty good trade here, this little flag, because of the extended nature of the price action. You may have been taken off a break even. If you did take it, otherwise we're looking for some price action that resembles some downside. You may see this chop around up here and take its sweet time to turn, maybe form a little bit of a rising wedge. Maybe that's what we're seeing now. But again, all I'm saying is we're taking some pretty high risk trades, trying to pick the top here, but I think it could pay off if we keep it low risk positions and we keep our risk management nice and tight. It could really pay off for us, and it's all about finding the right opportunities, and pound Swiss is ripe for a short trade if this price action develops into something that can resemble that short trade entry. Very much along the same lines as pound yen. Pound yen, pretty much a mirror trade. So you're looking for the opportunities between these two that resembles the best looking short trade. As you can see, anything below this trend line is of interest to us at the moment. The danger being that it's just an ABC for a little bit more upside, and we continue to see that yen weakness. But that being said, looking back at the structure, you can see just how overcooked we are on the higher time frames. So that short trade still, in my view, is very much on the cards. Definitely something quite keen to get into if I can find that short opportunity. Pound New Zealand is another one. We were looking for this to get up to this 95, 195, 197 region, but really it did all it needed to do, which was break these highs at 1942. So we started to see quite a strong pullback off those highs. And again, this pullback is reminiscent or resembles a potential turn in the market. So if I get anything resembling a flag to the upside, I'm definitely looking to take this short because of the potential downside that's available if it does play out. As you can see, very similar to pound Oz, pound New Zealand looking extremely weak. So impulse ABC, we should see this break the lows at 185 and more than likely go even lower than that. Probably 175 is on the cards for this one. So potentially really big trade. So you really want to keep an eye on this and look for that short opportunity. So again, pound Oz, pound CAD, pound New Zealand, all looking ripe for shorts, and pound Swiss, pound yen looking to start setting up those shorts. So all these pound pairs looking really weak. and we expect that pound weakness to persist. New Zealand dollar yen, again, looking for that short trade. New Zealand dollar yen, structure-wise, looking good. When we go to the higher time frames, we've got a nice clean ABC running flat for downside. So we're looking at this on the weekly, nice big running flat, good structure. So we're looking for that turn. Again, we're trying to pick the top, so it can be a bit tricky. When we go into those higher time frames, you can see really strong impulse off the highs is indicative of a top and indicative of the first move to the downside. And now we're seeing a big choppy move in this region. At the moment, I'm looking at this as an ABC DE. It's a bit of a messy expanding triangle, but I'm keeping it as that because of the potential opportunity. And when you look at it from a classic charting point of view, you can see exactly how a continuation head and shoulders would develop out of this running triangle. So definitely one you want to keep an eye on. Basically, I think entry order below these lows is a pretty good opportunity to get a good payoff. At the very least, you should not get taken into the trade because price is going to chop back up to the highs, or it's going to chop down. And at the very least, you should be able to get break even because you're going to go and test kind of 76, 75, 50, that region before you turn back up. You may even take a little bit of profit by then, but higher time frame looks good, lower time frame looks good, setup looks pretty good. I don't like expanding triangles, but they are all over the market at the moment, and you can't ignore them, and you have to take these opportunities where you can. So I'm looking to trade this little low risk position to the downside. Swiss yen is another one. I'm looking to get short Swiss yen, and our little corrective structure looks like it's starting to play out. Really, really nice impulse off the highs. Choppy move up, fairly impulsive, but choppy enough to be an A wave. We have a 1, 2, 3 down. We may see a little bit more downside. We may go test the lows before we pop higher. But when we get into this 117.60, 117 region, I'll be looking for that short trade, and I'll be looking to hold this for the long run because this is a really good opportunity in terms of the higher time frames. I expect this to probably at the very least go and test 106. So again, like I said, we're picking those tops. We're using low risk positions to do so, but if they do pay off, you're going to see multiples on that 1%. You'll probably see 20 to 1 trades coming out of these if they do pay off for you. So risk reward definitely worth taking in my view. So we'll see how this develops. Maybe not even this week, but I'm very interested in this short. UK oil is a tricky one, given that we're expecting that top and we just marched higher very, very quickly. That being said, if we look at this as a structure, I think we're very close to the highs now. On the hourly, we've had a really, really strong surge, which sets up a really, really good opportunity to look for that flag entry. So if we see a little move down, a little bit of a flag, I'm taking that trade every day of the week because the downside is potentially quite high. Probably more than likely go and test kind of $24, $25 a barrel on oil if we turn to the downside from here. It's not a very, very clean structure in the higher time frames, but when you see the latest structure, say the daily structure, you can see we're sitting right at the top of the structure. So we're looking for at the very least the corrective move that would probably get down to kind of 45 at the very least. So when you're taking these hourly trades and you're trading it down to 45 minimum, you can see just how your risk reward can really get into a good space, especially once again if the dollar rally starts to take hold and we start to see that risk off because of that dollar rally and all things involved with that dollar rally. So I'm taking this flag every day of the week. I'll be keeping a close eye on this tomorrow and Tuesday to see that flag present itself. These overbought conditions really provide good opportunities if you have your timing right and you have really good risk management. TLT is my one concern. If we zoom out on TLT to say the 8-hour daily, you can see how I'm worried about the structure popping higher from here up towards 163. I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm going to remove that, but this is a real worry where we see yields pop higher, if yields pop lower, sorry, bonds pop higher, yields pop lower, which means the dollar loses its bid, which means gold, silver start to rally back up, platinum starts to rally, you see precious metals rally on lower yields, and you probably see the stock market rally, and that means we're more than likely going to see a little bit more dollar weakness first before we see that dollar strength. So we're keeping a close eye on TLT. There's nothing to say in terms of structure. It's very clean. We may not see it. We may just see continued bond sell-off, which means stronger yields, which means dollar strength and gold, silver weakness. So this is the chart I'll be keeping a close eye on in terms of narrative and what's happening. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, just very technical trading at the moment, trying to pick tops, keeping a close eye on that price action to find those opportunities that we can hold for the longer term. We may get taken out for break even, but again, it's all about risk reward. You don't mind taking break evens on a 1% position when your upside was potentially 15, 20%. So yeah, really that's the kind of trading we're doing at the moment. Bitcoin into the crypto space, we're really expecting this to pull back. As you can see, I was looking for this 52 level to be tested and then that downside to really take hold. And initially it did. It really started to move. We saw a really strong move, and as crypto does, we just saw a turn to the upside. Nothing to say that the structure is not working or there's something wrong with the structure. I still think we're going to see downside. Really hard to be bearish crypto though. It kind of just rallies regardless of the structure. But structure-wise, structure speaking, I still see downside here. Even from this region, you can see how this could be the first move down. And what you're seeing here is just a zigzag corrective structure. And now you see downside heading into the end of the weekend, into the start of the week. That is a possibility. Like I said, I don't like shorting Bitcoin on margin. All I've said is it's time to take some profits on your crypto longs that we had from that 9,000 region. Take some profits and let's see how things develop. Because if we get downside, this downside should be really strong. And again, it's on that dollar strength narrative and gold weakness. But if we're wrong, there's nothing wrong with buying back in at, say, 54,000 and seeing how things develop from there. Because you're taking your profits in a place where there's potentially 30, 40, 50% downside, even more than that. And you don't want to hold through that. You're taking your profits and you're seeing how this is going to develop. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential opportunities, a lot of potential outcomes to this. One of them being where we just chop back up to the highs, we get another strong move to the downside, and then we can look for those longs with earnest, with confidence. At the moment, I don't have confidence in bullish positions on crypto. You can see even from a kind of classic charting point of view, there's a little bit of a head and shoulders type structure developing here. So you have to be concerned at this region. You have to be risk averse. And if you hold profits from kind of 9,000 onwards, you don't want to take a 600% increase and lose most of it because you were overly confident in the position. So just be cautious, take some profits at the very least, see how things develop here. And if they continue to march higher, you can buy it back and then see how things go from there. But right now, what I'm saying is that this is a very high risk position. And as you can see, what we're seeing is another structure that says potentially a continuation head and shoulders to the downside. So just be cautious of your crypto at this juncture. Ethereum, same thing. Structure-wise, still looks good for downside. Nice big impulse off the highs, out of that ascending wedge, gone into a little bit of a corrective move. As you can see, we're still correcting this impulse to the downside. And if you guys know our base principles, that we have an impulse, we have a correction, and what we expect next is another impulse, which we'll see at the very least probably $1,000 on Ethereum. I expect much lower given the higher time frames. But again, all I'm saying is be really cautious of your crypto longs at the moment, because if we do start to see that downside, you don't want to hold up in the faith that this is the start of a dip buying opportunity and you're going to see new highs. We may see this really just start to accelerate to the downside. Again, if that is that dollar bull thesis starts to take hold, we'll definitely start to see crypto sell off, because the whole thesis for holding crypto at the moment is because the dollar is losing its strength. And if we see dollar strength, all those hedge funds that were trading this in terms of dollar weakness are going to pull their funds, and you're going to see that big drop. So just be really cautious at these levels. So cool, guys, that's it for the game plan. As you can see, key focuses are really just seeing what the dollar does. I don't see any trades much in the dollar this week. It's probably going to be quite sideways moves in the dollar. Silver and gold will be managing our trades, potential platinum entry. Definitely looking for those pound shorts and mixed trades in the euro. We can look for those euro hedges to trade up and down in the euro, and a couple of opportunities in the yen, Swiss yen especially. UK oil short definitely on the cards, keeping a close eye on yields, and then just remaining very cautious in Bitcoin at the moment, seeing how things develop. It's cool, guys. For our members, we'll see you in tomorrow's trading strategy session. Looking for tomorrow's opportunities. I'm looking for a really good week ahead of us. Some more profits. Last week was a great week for us. I saw around about, I think it was 8% running profits at the moment, and I should see that continue moving forward. So great week for me last week. Great week for our members. I know they took a lot of trades, especially in the US equity markets, that have paid off. A lot of those shorts paid off. If you're not a member, go check out the link. I'll post it in the description below, or go to senecalytics.com, go to the Trading Academy and sign up. I'm offering full refund of your membership if you don't make those profits back by the end of the month, just because of these market conditions. There's a lot of opportunities in the market at the moment, so you could really take advantage of that opportunity, because I really think it's going to pay off. And yeah, seeing a lot of returns for our members, which I'm really happy about. I think this academy is really going to start taking off. So I hope to see you in there. Cool, guys. Have a great week, and we'll chat to you soon.